the content central. So if you go to the right side of the work area here, you could scroll down and find 3D content central, and you could open up that one. You could open up the next level here, and then you could choose supplier or user library. I go for supplier this time, and I choose all categories, and then I click on this symbol here, which is actually just opening a web browser. Here you need to log in, so you need to register yourself, but that's easy and doesn't cost anything. So when you're in here, we could start to search for something that we need. So in this case, I would like to have some batteries, and a very common battery is called 18650. So I search for that, and what you could do here is just scroll around and click on something that you think is interesting. You could also search for high ranked or highest rated. Usually it means that they are a little bit better modeled. So here we have quite a good ranking on this one from this company here. So we could actually find out the price and actually get it delivered home if we would like to have exactly this battery. So if I click on this one, you could get a preview. You could also see that we could change the version here. And right now we're working with Solidworks 2018/2019, the student version. So we need to go down one step here to 2018, so it will be accepted. And don't think we need to have it zipped, or I don't want to be reminded, so I just turn those off. It's not super important. Here we have the preview here, so we could actually have a look at this this battery here, and we could also see that this could be configured a little bit. So this differs a little bit from the supplier, but here we could actually have tabs or connections for the electricity. So where you would like to weld or solder the cables to the battery. So this is perfect. This is exactly what I would like to have. Let's download. And when you download, you have two possibilities. You could actually drag and drop this straight into Solidworks, but I find it quite nice to build a little bit of a local library. So just by clicking on this one here, it will download, and then we could save it in a special library. So I will go for this one and say show in folder, and then we could see that it's in the download folder here. And I think I have another folder here called the hairdryer. So we could actually here in the hairdryer folder make a library. So let's call this library parts. Let's try to be a little bit structured. Go into that one, and then we move from download into this library here. Okay, great. So if we go back to Solidworks, we now could go for insert again. And in this case, it's not opened yet, this document or this part. So I go for browse. And in this case, I have made, this is an old one. So we'll go up one step here and go down a little bit here. And here we have the library folder I just did a couple of seconds ago. And if you go inside, we find this battery. And sometimes the naming here is not great, so I will actually put in battery here so I know what it is. Or it's a little bit more clear what it is. And then I choose open. We could also see here it seems to be non-English, the information inside it. Okay, then I make it selected and choose open, and then it works better. And now it's just floating there in space here, so we could just move it wherever we like. So in this case, I will just click here in space and it will just be floating around. Now we would like to position this a little bit more exact. So to do that, we would like to look inside our hair dryers. I will make a cross section. And maybe we could move the cross section a little bit so it's not exactly in the middle, so it's easier to see how we could position this battery here. So let's accept that. We could also take the opportunity to save this special section here. So we could call this side, so we could easily bring it up later. And if you would like to bring it up, you just make spacebar, and then you could click on section view, and then you come into this same view as we have now. Okay, so let's see if we could move this into a nice position here. So what we need to do now is do something called mating, and that is a way of positioning this battery here. So what I will go in here and do is that I will go for mate, and it instantly grabbed the surface there, but in the blue window here you could always delete if you like to have a clean start. So in this case it would be nice to kind of have it directed in the same direction as this handle here, and we could borrow a surface and say be kind of flat or directed like that surface, but it could be also a little bit scary to borrow a surface. So let's say you would like to change this or delete this surface, then you confuse everything in this parametric modeling system. So maybe we could try to choose something that is a little bit more safe. And I'm not sure what is super safe here, but actually like the surface here is probably pretty safe. So if I click on this surface here, it will jump into this blue window. And now we could have this battery aligned along this surface. So if I open up the tree that is now out here, we could go for the battery. Let's move this a little bit on the side here. And under the battery, we could see the complete history tree here. And if I hover about the planes here, it's the planes for that battery. So maybe that plane would be perfect to align with the blue surface that is already selected. So let's see what happens if I click now. Yeah, so now it's orientated along this middle line here. But maybe we would like it to have it lower, but it's okay that it's oriented. So instead of coincident, we could choose a distance. So if I go for distance here, we could just have it moving. So if you look at the battery here, we can move it up and down with a certain value there. It could be nice to flip this. So we have these soldering pieces sticking in the other direction. You could do that by finding a way of flipping. So we just need to find a possibility to flip. And here we have mate aligns. If you click on that one, that's better. So now it's aligned in another direction. So if I accept this now, the battery is always on that distance that we decided. So I don't remember, was it 10 millimeter? So it's always 10 millimeter from this plane here down to the middle. But we could still move it sideways, and we could move it in and out, but it's always 10 millimeter. So let's say you would like to have it positioned exactly in the middle here. Let's try to do the same thing again. So here we had the planes, and that plane seemed to be in the middle of the battery. So if you pick that plane in the battery and scroll up to the assembly, we could choose the front plane on the assembly that you could see in orange and click on that. So we have two objects, and if I click on these, the battery is now aligned along these two planes. If you accept this now, the only movement that you could actually do here is up and down. That's the only thing you could do. It's exactly in the center there of the handle. And we could have it floating in that direction. So let's accept this. At least we have a little bit of constraints there. It's not just floating around like a crazy. And here we could see a sketch here that we might hide. So if I go for hide, clean up a little bit. Okay, let's bring in some more parts. So we go for 3D Content Central again. And this time maybe we could see if we could find something else like a fan. So let's say we search for an axial fan like 50 millimeter. And again, we could just scroll around here. Best match, highest rated. Let's see what we get then. Okay, so this looks nice. So let's see if we could use this. And we also know that we could buy one of these later on if we would like to do that. Click on this one. And we will download this. And now we can see that there is a lot more configuration to do here. I will not go into that part. I will just check that it's not the wrong version. It's actually an older version, and that is okay. So we're happy with the settings. We get the preview here. So let's just download. And this has to be zipped, so but it's okay. You download, and then we could unzip it. So when this is downloaded, we will open up the package and extract the parts. So again, we could just drag and drop, but I would like to have in a library. I would like to position this in a library. So I go this way instead. I click on that, and we can see that it's coming down in the corner here. So if I click on this now, it opens up a compressed folder tool here with actually several pieces. It seems to be an assembly with two pieces here, a fan and the fan house. So that means that we could actually, if you like, we could break out just a fan if you like to do that. Right now, we just would like to extract this because it's compressed. So I click extract and say extract all. And then it will go to the downloads folder, and I will say okay to that right now. Because I will just drag and drop it to the correct one. So the compressed folder in the background there, we could close that one. Okay. And the one we have now is not compressed, but we have a couple of items here that we would like to put into the library that we made earlier. So let's go for the library. So here we go. And in this case, we have several pieces. So I prefer to make a folder here to keep it. It's easier to keep it together. It's up to you how you would like to do this. But I call this fan 50 millimeter. And then we put all the stuff in there. So I just grab these and move them over. And now we have the stuff inside there instead. We could see that we have an assembly, and then there is two parts. So in this case, again, I will rename this. But be careful. You could only rename on assembly level. If you have an assembly and start to rename stuff that is probably linked, you will break the link. But on the top level, assembly, it's okay if you know it's not inside another assembly. So I will call this fan 50 millimeter to make it a little bit more clear what it is. Okay, so we could just call it fan, that it's okay. So back in SolidWorks, we can now go for insert component, browse, and in this case we go for the folder fan 50 millimeter. And here we find several pieces, but I will take the assembly. And then we get the complete fan. And we get a preview. So remember to turn on preview. So if you can't see it, it's because graphic preview is not clicked on. Okay, remember graphic preview. And I will just, no, I will not just drop it because it's in a really crazy angle there. So there is a tiny little window that you could barely see, but let's see if I could bring this window into the screen a little bit better. So in Y, we would like to rotate this. I click Y. That's better. And now I will click in space. It's just floating there. So now it would be nice to just position this somehow inside here. And it's a little bit tricky to see where it's going. So we had a section view. You remember that? Spacebar. And then I click on section view. And then we could much easier position this. So we could position this wherever we like. So in this case, I will take help from this surface here and kind of, so we could put some screws through there. So I will actually click on this surface here and then go for mate. And you see that it brought that surface in. You can see that it's selected blue. And then I will go for the fan and say, hey, that surface should be just on top of that first one. So I accept this. I can do it here. So now this fan cannot be moved along the hairdryer, but up and down and sideways is okay. So let's see if we could center this. And again, we could click on some surfaces, or maybe we could find some planes to use. In this case, the front plane here would be great. So let's see if we could find a plane inside this fan. So I go for fan. Remember, this is assembly, which consists of more parts. So if I hover here, we could see that. Yeah, that's perfect. Ooh, look at that. They are now centered together. So I accept that. And now we have made another mate. And if I'm happy with this, we could have it mated one more time. But if I just say accept without anything in the blue area, that means we're happy with this. We're going out from this function. Nothing in the corner. So right now, this could only be moved up and down. Sideways is impossible, but up and down is fine, and it will be centered. Okay, super. Let's bring in a third piece here before we start to do the advanced stuff. So again, we go for the web page, and in this case, I was thinking about having some kind of connector to plug in and charge. So let's search for a connector here, DC connector, and there is several of them. I will just take this one. It's kind of high rated here. That's good. And again, same procedure. Check the version. So we can't go for 2019. We need to back off to 2018, so it matches the Solidworks version. I don't want it to be zipped, so then we don't need to extract it. It makes it a little bit easier. I don't want to be reminded. So we download, and as soon as we get the link here, I click on it, and it will jump down. And now I will choose show in folder. Can't see that, but you have to trust me. So right now it's in the download folder, and this is something we could move straight into the library folder. So I go for the library parts and just bring in this into the same place. And it's a terrible name there, so I will add in here something easier in the beginning. We could let the rest be there if we would like to search this on the internet and buy one. It could be nice to have the exact information there. So I just add DC plug, and then I know what it is. Oh, it's too long. Okay, so that didn't work. Okay, let's take away this user library. DC plug. That should work. Yes, we are sure what we're doing. So trust us. Solidworks. We jump back to Solidworks. And now we have yet another piece that we could bring in. This is actually the fun part with the assemblies, that you could just put in whatever you like. I go for browse. And then we go up one step here. So we have the library folder. Choose the DC plug. Just choose open. And again, it's just there in space. So we could just have it floating again. In space. I just click there in space and it will be crazy located. So let's say you would like to have this surface here coming in underneath here. So let's just go for a mate. So I go for mate, that surface towards that surface. Okay. It needs to be flipped, so search for the flip possibility, and that's better, so I accept that. And if we move a little bit sideways, so we're not in the middle of the tree there. And then we could also continue here to mate this. So right now it's on the right level, but the alignment here might not be what you like. So let's choose a surface like that. And again, it would be nice to position it to something. And I talked earlier about maybe not choosing just a random surface, but actually I will do that now. That means I will make a link to that surface, but now it's lining up exactly with that. And again, we could flip this, and there is a flip tool here as well. Okay, so if I accept that, I made yet another mate here. So now we could move this in and out here. And if you realize that this was a mistake, you could go down here and you could see the last mate you did here. So if I click on this mate, we could actually go back and tweak the settings. So instead of coincident, we could go for distance. And here we could now say, okay, 5 millimeter from that one. We would like to have this DC plug here. And again, we might like to center this. I accept this, the change I did. We see that this is now kind of inside here, but we will take care of this soon. Maybe we would like it to stick out a little bit. Let's do that change as well. So if I go back here, we could see that we had coincident as the first mate as well. So we could change this one as well to a distance. So right now coincident, I changed to distance. Now we could say, okay, I would like it to be 1 millimeter from that surface. So it's actually sticking out 1 millimeter there. We could have it maybe just 0.5 millimeter. And the reason for that is that then maybe we could have a little bit of plastic left here. So we could kind of push it in there somehow. Okay, so let's center it. So we would like to find a center of this one. Compress the fan, go for the DC plug and hover above the planes here. And that one, that will be perfect. This one, oh, not that perfect really, because they didn't do it in the center here. So, So if you would like to find the center of the plug here, you might go into this part, because it's a Solidworks part, and make a plane. Or maybe we could use this this circle here. Or you could do this. Let's clean away that first. You could go into, this is a neat trick here. You could actually turn on the visibility of hidden items, and temporary access could sometimes be useful. So if I turn on view, hide and show, temporary access, you could get a little bit of extra information. Look at that. So in this DC plug, they have used an axis, and now we could reach that for our purposes. So in the blue window now, I can click on that temporary axis and say, hey, you should be perfectly aligned with the front plane of the whole assembly. So if I click now, it adjusted a little bit. Okay, so that's great. So with control middle drag, it goes sideways. So now I'm happy with that. I go for OK. And OK again. And then we got rid of that tree, nothing in the corner. So now we have positioned this. We can't move this anymore. It's positioned in all directions. Okay, great.